Welcome back to the channel, people. In this video we're going to be looking at sculpture in art. Okay, this is going to be lesson 17, sculpture in art. So what is sculpture in art? So as you can see on the right hand side of the screen, we've got probably one of the most famous sculptures on earth. Okay, there are many famous sculptures on earth, but a lot of these sort of classical sculptures that we think of derive from this sort of period of time, and this one was David by Michelangelo. Okay, so again, we've got many sculptures to look at today. We want to briefly go through each one of them, sort of discuss where they came from, what they are, why they're there, and so on and so forth. So let's just start off with this one here. Okay, so we've got a urinal here, and this was classed as a ready-made around the time of Dadaism and Marcel Duchamp's urinal. Okay, and this was at the time very provocative and a very new way of looking at what could be artwork. Is an artwork simply what an artist titles an artwork, or is an artwork something that has to be derived from some form of craft or skill? Well, Marcel Duchamp clearly shocked the art world at the time, because he took a mass-produced urinal, titled it as an artwork. Okay, and this kind of sent ripples through the art world at the time. This was like Dadaism around World War One, I believe. Might be World War Two, I could be wrong. It's around the wartime this sort of type of artwork sort of came about. So this is simply just taking a mass-produced object, giving it a title, and writing a little bit about it perhaps, and then this then is classified as artwork, deemed by the artist. We've got this piece on the screen here by Alex Calder. Not a big fan of this piece, to be honest. It's called The Red Horse, and let's just quickly go over that one. I don't want to talk much about that one. We have this statue here by Alberto Giacometti. Sorry, I probably pronounced his name very wrong there. Giacometti. And Swiss sculpture, Alberto is perhaps most recognised for his thin, elongated figures. Their rough texture allows viewers to see the force of sculpture, who was also a painter and printmaker. For a 6-year period starting in 1938, he focused on small-scale sculptures, with each piece measuring no more than 2.7 inches in height. His famous sculptures are his series Walking Man. Three of 4 life-size sculptures are cast in bronze. His work is often discussed with existentialism and human condition. We have quite a flowing sculpture here. Not a fan of that either. We've got a brutalist type sculpture there. Not a fan of that. We've got some form of spider sculpture. We've got this Cloud Gate by Anish Kapoor. This is in, where is this one again? Specialising in large-scale sculpture, conceptual artist Anish Kapoor is the most well-known for his public artworks in Chicago, London, New York City. Perhaps is the Bean located in Chicago. Yeah, the Bean is located in Chicago, and a lot of these sculptures, to be honest with you, this one, Jeff Koons, is a famous American artist, commercial artist, quite a successful artist too. He created these giant balloons. Yeah, what I was going to say is a lot of these sculptures or sculptors, to be honest, is not something that I'm really interested in at all. I do like the old style sculptors, and I do like some of the bronze and sort of metal sculptors, but things like this I'm not really a fan of. They're a bit of an eyesore to me. They don't really look very visually aesthetically pleasing at all, whereas some of the things back in the day, like the famous David by Michelangelo, although yes, I do not particularly enjoy looking at his midsection and below, but you know, I think these sort of sculptures are classical, and they are quite refined in terms of skill and provenance. So let's just look at a few more bits of information on sculpture. Let's read a little bit of information on sculpture, and we'll take it from there. So if we type in sculpture, let me just type in sculpture in art on Google, we'll read the AI overview. Sculpture is a 3-dimensional art form that can be made from a variety of materials. It's one of the oldest forms and has been used to tell stories and reflect the zeitgeist for thousands of years. The zeitgeist just means of the era. So, what materials might somebody use when creating a sculpture? They might use clay, they might use some ceramics, which is clay, they might use metal, they might use wood, they might use plastic, they might use any form of material which a person can get their hands on may be used in creating sculpture. Now, because it's going to be quite difficult to give you a task in this lesson, because I don't expect you to have like a bag of clay or a bunch of metal to start doing some metal work or woodwork. It's going to be quite difficult to give you a task to create a sculpture. However, if you do have access to those materials, then I would encourage you to make a sculpture of any choosing that you wish. So you, for example, you could create a sculpture of your own hand, or you could create a sculpture of your favorite gadget, or anything like that. You could create a sculpture of a plant. If you do have the access to some form of materials, then I would encourage you to do it. But in this lesson, the task is going to be just simply write a page in the sketchbook about sculpture in art, write a little bit about it, write the different forms that you can use in sculpture, write the different techniques, write the different materials that you can use. And if you really want to push it out, push the boat out, then you could find a sculpture-based artist and write a little bit about them as well. But predominantly just write about their techniques, the different materials, and maybe the origins of sculpture. So, for example, sculpture is as old as man to some degree, because I believe the earliest type of sculpture was formed and found around 32,000 years ago in the form of tools. So you could argue that sculpture originated with the creation of tools back in the day when we were, running around caves chasing saber-toothed tigers and stuff. That's when you can sort of say that, forming things with our hands and skill and material sort of came about many thousands of years ago as the earliest evidence for like tools and things like that. And then of course we go on to other sort of more refined forms of sculpture, whereby humans started to sort of reimagine their surroundings and recreate their surroundings in the form of sculpture. A couple of famous, let me just show you a famous, so this piece here, I remember in college learning about this piece, and this is a very famous sculpture, and it basically embodies the woman's body, Venus of Willendorf. And as you can see, it says, according to this, I mean, obviously, we never know if it's completely true, but let's take it with a pinch of salt. It says 28,000 to 25,000 before Christ, so 27,000 years ago, roughly. And so this sculpture is basically, it's highlighting a woman's figure. It's showing a woman's curvy figure, what a natural woman's curvy figure should look like, and this goes back 30,000 years ago. So, perspectives haven't changed much, which is interesting. Anyway, that's just a piece which I like and I enjoy. I just wanted to show you that one as well. So guys, I know this lesson's been a little bit all over the place, let's say, but I think the main points have been delivered, which is that sculpture comes in many forms. You could have a tiny sculpture this big, or you could have a sculpture the size of the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is a sculpture. So you could have big sculptures, small sculptures, you could have sculptures based on people, you could have sculptures based on objects, you could have sculptures based on landscapes, you can have sculptures made out of different materials, and you can use different techniques to create sculptures. Okay, so that's going to be enough for this lesson. This is lesson 17. We've been learning about sculptures. The task for the lesson is to simply create a page in your sketchbook and just write a little bit about sculptures. Okay, thank you very much, guys. I will see you in lesson 18, and we're going to be looking at more 3D forms and shapes in lesson 18. We're going to be touching a little bit more on the 3D realm in extension to the sculptures. So thanks very much for watching. Like, share, comment and subscribe, and I shall see you in the next